Welcome to episode 6 of Black is Evil and White is Good. It's another perspective with I, the mystic philosopher. And yes, my melanin people, it's high time for reasoning. Here in episode 6, my focus will be on self-preservation and its relationship to property and possession. To preserve one's own existence means to act in order to preserve one's own property and possessions. Now, what is meant by property and what is meant by possessions? From I, the mystic philosopher's perspective, in order for us, the natural native earthly humans, we, the Earth's organic humans, identifiable by our highly enriched melanin skin complexion, or highly enriched carbon skin complexion, also called Africans. In order for us to have a clear knowledge and understanding of what is property and possession, it is imperative that we first have a clear knowledge and understanding of that which is natural versus that which is legal. Now, natural and all that which is natural is of and by our source and mother nature. Legal and all that which is legal is from and by the system. The system that is made up of our African ancestors, Caucasoid and Arabs, invaders. Our African ancestors, conquerors. It is made up of our African ancestors, colonizers. Our African ancestors, enslavers, slave drivers, slave traders, and slave masters. And by extension, it is made up of their wicked years and successes today. The system that is made up of some evil bankers, money changers, murderers, robbers, rapists, thieves, some very black ones, and our oppressors. You name them, the system is made up of them. From I, the mystic philosopher's natural and Afrocentric perspective, property and possession are things that we naturally own and naturally possess, and not things that we may legally own or that we may legally possess in accordance to the system's laws. Things that we naturally own are those that are given to us by our source and our mother nature via our ancestors. They are things that we have inherited from mother nature and from our ancestors naturally. For example, our physical bodies, our DNA, our life, or the breath of life that we breathe, were all given to us or handed down to us through our ancestors by our source and mother nature. These are things that we can naturally and rightfully say that we own. They are our property and our possessions naturally, by nature. The earth, the land, or to be even more specific, Mother Africa, the region, the geographical location of this our planet and Mother Earth from whence we originated naturally, we also own. It is our natural birthright. Things that we truly own meaning things that we received from our ancestors, things that we have received from our source and Mother Nature, cannot be taken from us, not even by our adversaries. For example, unlike what our enemies and oppressors would teach, preach, and through threats, intimidation, torture, and fear, have many of us, the ascendants of Africa, believe no one can take our lives. Neither can they take that which is naturally ours. For example, they can, they may, and they have killed and even murdered millions of us. But they still could not and cannot take our lives. For if they could, then they would have multiple lives, and no doubt they would live forever. They can and they have invaded, captured, divided, displaced, and scattered us from our lands into foreign lands and to the four corners of the earth, etc. But our lands, our mother Africa, is still there. They can, they have, and they could only remove us and all our natural and all other natural native earthly humans from off our lands. But they cannot, they could not, and they have not removed our land from us. And they know that it is ours. They know and understand that she belongs to us Africans. And they know who and what they are. Yes, they know that they are robbers, murderers, thieves, conquerors, invaders, colonizers, and occupiers. Quite the opposite of what some fools from among us may think, teach, believe, and say. We, the highly melaninated earthly humans of African ancestry, do not own the Caucasus Mountain or any of their lands and all the other places, regions where our enemies may be from and belong. Things that we legally own and legally so-called possess are things that the devils, the evil ones, the black Caucasian, the invaders, the conquerors, the colonizers, the enslavers, bankers, murderers, robbers, rapists, thieves, and oppressors. Things that the system may, under certain circumstances, and if we are by its standards qualified by meeting the system's prerequisite, then it may grant us its honor and its privilege to say that we own or that we possess real property or real possessions, aka real estate. Please note that I say that we own. Say that we own. And why, you may ask? Because whether you like it, know it, believe it or not, we are all still slaves of, to, and for the Caucaside system. The same system that grants us the illusion to think and believe that we are free. And as slaves in and under the system, we are subjects, also known as slaves. And slaves cannot own anything, let alone own the system's defined real property. Here's another reason why we, the natural native earthly humans and melaninated people of African ancestry, cannot own anything. Why we should and why we should not claim that we own, and why we should not even try or want to own any of the system's stolen and ill-gotten properties and or possessions. If a man or a gang of men proudly and boastfully told you that they are a bunch of criminals that have committed some extremely heinous crimes, if they told you that the crimes that they have committed in order to claim ownership and possessions of the land, the properties and the possessions that they now have, included the crimes they have committed included rape, murder, violent abuse of women and children, genocide, homicide, slavery, chattel slavery, and the exploitation of innocent and defenseless people, women and children alike. In short, if they were to confess to you that in every sense of the word they were, and that they are truly a bunch, a gang of black people, and from your own personal experience, your own personal observations and practical experiences with them, you have proven them to be true, then what would buying their stolen and ill-gotten land, buying their stolen and ill-gotten properties and possessions that are soaked with the blood of innocence make you? From my perspective, it would make you an accomplice to all of their crimes. It would make you an accomplice to robbery, rape, murder, violent abuse of women and children, genocide. It would make you an accomplice to homicide, slavery, chattel slavery, oppression, and the exploitation of innocent and defenseless people, women and children alike. And it would make you an accomplice to the pollution of the earth by the spilling of innocent blood. And just for the record, and in the interest of clarity, let me also hasten to point out that all the above mentioned crimes and more were not crimes against the Caucasian system. They were all done legally. For example, the record and our basic activated common sense will show and prove, and has shown and proven, that they, the Caucasians, legally invaded, they legally captured and legally divided, legally partitioned the stolen lands, the stolen properties and possessions, first amongst themselves, and then they legally claim to sell it back to us and to the natives and the rightful owners and to all those who will be accomplices in their crimes against Mother Nature and her natural laws, Mother Nature's natural principles. For those among us that are in doubt, just a little Google search will show that after World War II, with the exception of Ethiopia and Liberia, the continent of our motherland, Africa, was divided, or more correctly, was partitioned among the Caucasoid powers in what is known as the Scramble for Africa. And the question that most of you naysayers should be asking and seeking the right answer is, who legally owned Africa? I put it to you, the legal system. From my natural Afrocentric perspective, the ideology or the thing called slavery was never abolished. Moreover, it had never failed to make all of its proponents extremely rich, wealthy, and powerful. Therefore, it was only reformed by the system and its evil and ingenious architects, and in an intelligent and mindful way to give us, its victims, the illusion that it was or that it has been abolished, and above all, that we are free. That's a joke. And anyone from among us African people that would try to con and convince us of such utter nonsense is completely ignorant of the first law of nature, called self-preservation, and how it is mercilessly practiced by Caucasians and their legal system in order to preserve themselves and their power. From my natural and Afrocentric perspective, legal is not, or it's not of or from our source, our ancestors, and our mother nature. Let me repeat. From my natural and Afrocentric perspective, legal is not of, and it is not from our source or our ancestors and our mother nature. Legal is not natural. Legal is unnatural. Legal is anti-natural. Legal is anti-nature. Legal is the unnatural ones, the evil ones, the black ones, the devils, the invaders and colonizers' savage and brutal attempt at conquering, controlling, and exploiting Mother Nature and all that which is natural. Yes, I will agree that the system, also known as the legal system, does mimic aspects of the natural principles, aspects of Mother Nature's laws, of our source and Mother Nature, but only for its own benefits, its own evil will and dominance over others, and for its continued self-preservation. Legal is the system's construct and ideology. Legal is primarily based upon the practice by the system's laws and not by our Mother Nature's laws. Thus, legal and natural, or legal and moral, are not synonymous. For example, the system can give, and the system has given itself the system's legal and godlike right and legal and godlike power to invade, to wage war, to rain down cannons, bombs, gunshots, brimstones, and fire upon any of our fellow natural native earthly humans in their own lands and in their own natural environment and natural habitat, thereby conquering them, killing or murdering innocent and defenseless men, women, babes, and the unborn, young and old, and then legally rob, legally rape, legally pillage, legally oppress, and enslave all those that may survive their legal onslaught. The system can, and the system has given itself legal right to dam, mine, pollute, and destroy the earth, the rivers, seas, the air we breathe, thereby disrupting and destroying our natural ecosystem. But from my natural Afrocentric perspective, such behavior is not only unnatural and immoral, but it is evil, plain and simple. When I hear the word natural, I hear and sense good news. I hear and think of my source and Mother Nature. I hear and sense the natural mystic blowing in the air, I hear the voices, the spirits of my ancestors. I hear true freedom, happiness, health, joy, and peace, etc. But when I hear the word legal, or whenever I hear any other word with the word legal in it, I hear and sense trouble. I hear and sense bad news, or at the very best, I hear and sense potential bad news. Whenever I hear the word legal or words with the word legal in them, I sense fear and destruction. I sense the manifestation of evil. I also hear the voices of my ancestors, adversaries, and oppressors haunting me. Whenever I hear the word legal or any word that has legal in it, I am immediately reminded of the fact that my African ancestors were captured and put in chains and placed in dungeons legally. I am reminded of the fact that my African ancestors did not freely come here to the Western world on Caucasian ships illegally, but that they were forcefully brought here legally while having to serve or survive living in their own feces, urine, and blood for weeks and months at a time, and while being chained to each other and packed like sardines in the bowels of the Black Caucasians' cargo ships. I am reminded that my ancestors were bought and sold, traded legally, raped, mauled to death, lynched, and made to be the system's slaves legally. Please let me remind you, my fellow melanin brothers and sisters of African ancestry, that prior to the alien entity commonly known to many today as Satan, the devil, along with his armies of senior and junior devils, host of black ones, also known as the Black Caucasians, that our African ancestors regretfully encountered and came to know prior to the Black Caucasians invaded our invasions of Africa, our motherland, and brought along their curses of disease, their black mark of death, exploitation, oppression, and destruction. Prior to them, the Black Caucasian coming from wherever, I am not sure, and saw us, our ancestors, in our natural state, happily, understandingly, and cooperatively living in our natural habitat. Prior to them, the evil ones activating their inherent programmed instinct of craftiness, lies, conspiracy, and deceit, and conned us, convinced us that they were and that they are our fellow human, our fellow brothers and sisters, that they were and that they are one of us and part of us, that they were conned us into believing that they were and that they are our friends and partners, etc. Prior to them sowing their evil seeds of discord among us, then proceeded to divide us, and then conquered and subjugate us by making us their subjects. Prior to them, the black ones bringing and forcefully imposing upon us their gods, their religions, their language and languages, their terror, and their system of government, also known as their legal system. We, or our African ancestors, had no man-made laws, no legal system or system of government that divided us. We had no legal boundaries between us. It was not until they, the Black Caucasians, came and divided us, and with their evil and unnatural laws, they governed and controlled us, separated and scattered us to the four corners of the earth, where we are now their slaves and properties, that we know pain and suffer their indignities. And again, let me remind you that all that they say and all that they do is in the interest of their self-preservation. If we as children and ascendants of Mother Africa know and understand that the first law of our Mother Nature is self-preservation, if we know and understand that in order for us to preserve our own existence means that we should and that we must act in order to preserve our own property and possessions, then the only country, place or continent on earth that we should and that we must take action to regain, and all actions necessary to preserve, is our ancestral home and motherland, Africa. If we are taking action, or if the actions that we are taking are those that preserve and are preserving our enemies, our conquerors, our colonizers, our murderers and oppressors' stolen lands, their stolen properties, their stolen possessions, our enemies' culture, if the actions we are taking are preserving our enemies' cultures, traditions, their gods, their religions, etc., then not only are we guilty of being accomplices in their vicious crimes, accomplices in their thievery and wickedness, but we are also willing participants in preserving their existence, participants in preserving their continued domination and exploitation of us, participants in their assured retribution, and participants in destroying and suppressing our own history and our own ancestors' story.